Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On the Same Page, Lord Up with Friends. Today I'm joined by a former NFL football player. I think you're technically still a free agent, right? If I am I right on that? Like, is that how that works?
You know, for as I'm sure you know, you're just telling me how that you're a football fan as well. Most professional athletes don't get the opportunity to choose when they retire. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of in that point at which I feel like I've just passed that point at which I am probably no longer valuable to an NFL team anymore. I'm 30 years old. I haven't been, this
Mm,
is my third season not on a team. So I think at this point it's pretty safe to say retired.
that's fair.
But
I think it's
there's
probably
no like
also you were a
there's no like
fullback. You were a fullback, right? So
yeah,
that's also
there's
probably
no
a
like
little
official
harder too.
process. Yes, no, there's no official process of like retirement. It's just the
Just like,
decision of
yeah,
like if you're what are you doing with your time anymore?
yeah,
And I've officially passed that period of like majority of my day is taken up by staying in shape and training.
that's so fair.
But yes, I was a fullback, and fullbacks are one of the least used positions in football.
They're
So I'm
they're
sure that had a
they're
lot to
still
do with timing and
somewhat
money.
used in
Oh yeah.
college, but yeah, the NFL just I haven't seen a team in the NFL use a fullback like primarily in a long time.
Yeah, just the growth and like morphing of what an offense and defense looks like in football has definitely shifted away from the fullback and more towards a three wide, one tight end, single back kind of offense.
Hmm.
Even if that still is a run heavy offense, I still think that we are very close to the point where the fullback is going to continue to start building up again because of how much smaller linebackers have gotten.
That's
The
so
average
fair.
linebacker size now is like coming up to like 220, 215 pounds, which is crazy. And fullbacks, like I was one of the bigger fullbacks in the league because I was originally a quarterback in college, tried out for the Vikings as a tight end, and then they stuck me at fullback, and that's where I found my NFL career. But
I feel like so many college quarterbacks switch to tight end or fullback.
yeah,
That's
no,
wild.
my rookie year with the Vikings when I got injured, I was with Blake Bell, who was former quarterback with Oklahoma. The guy who was the quarterback after me at UNLV is a tight end or was a tight end, maybe on practice squad with the Commanders right now. So, a lot of times what happens is you put a very athletic guy at quarterback and they kind of just stick there. But when you get to the NFL, the quarterbacks have to do a whole lot more than just be athletic.
Yeah, there's so many offenses in college, especially that are very fast paced. So it made sense to put a more
Yeah.
athletic person at quarterback, and that usually doesn't always translate to quarterback in the NFL. I think is the thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it more and more with starting quarterback injuries, just seeing how hard it is to play
Hmm.
at the starting quarterback level. When you see the backups come in and just not necessarily compete, unless your name is Andy Dalton or Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
Um,
trust me,
but
I'm an Eagles fan. I went through the whole point of McNabb getting hurt every year for years,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
understand. I think the one
No, I
good
mean the
backup
Eagles
we
are in a
had
great
was
position. Jalen,
the one good
yeah,
backup we had was Jeff Garcia. The one year he got us into the playoffs somehow.
yeah, absolutely. No,
But
luckily Jalen Hurts is a pretty durable guy, and
yeah,
fingers crossed at least.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, even so yeah, football's the one thing, but also Johnny has gotten into the tabletop space now. Like you've been on some APs, you have your supplement coming out, I believe, in about a month or two. Is that am I right?
Yeah, no, so at the time of this release,
Mm-hmm.
the Kickstarter will be finished for Sync Adventures on the Calder Sea, which I teamed up with a really good friend of mine, Rick Eskevius, and another really good friend of mine, Sam Rusk, who is a tattoo artist, to create this pirate and tattoo supplement for D&D 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned that this is coming out in like mid-November, which about a month ago will sync will have ended. By the time we're recording this, there's 9 days left in recording, and today we hit 235,000 on Kickstarter,
Oh
which
yeah.
we're really really proud about. But yeah, Sync is all of our first foray, or like yeah, I guess foray into the being a creator
Mm-hmm.
of a tabletop gaming, um, you know piece, a project, and Sync, we're really really proud of the niche that we were able to find. I couldn't count the amount of people who are like, "Hey, I love pirates and I love tattoos. This thing was built for me." And I think that's exactly what we were reaching for, is finding a group of people that really felt seen by that combination. Um, but yes, as you mentioned, I've had the opportunity of doing some wild, fun things within the tabletop space, and I'm excited to continue seeing where that takes me, because it seems to be at the very least a large part of my career moving forward. Now that I've started a company to help facilitate the growth, the building of Sync, as well as some awesome actual plays that I've done. The
Mhm.
first of which was getting to go live on stage at PAX Unplugged 2023, doing the Dragonlance game with some incredible creators, with Anjali Bhamani, Jasmine Bullar. Yeah, just some really, really cool people. And then since then, I've had amazing opportunities with Sync. We had the chance to go to do a show with Critical Role,
Mhm.
where Rick ran a game for myself, Marisha, and Taliesin, a game of Sync, which was wild for me, not knowing what was going to happen within within the game, being one half of the writing team. But Rick did an incredible job writing that, and then Sam got to do artwork of like the one shot that we ran in the background. So that was super super fun. Had a really great reaction to that, and yeah, hopefully even more and more things in the tabletop world.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Tabletop communities definitely has grown so much, especially because of COVID. Because it just so many people gravitated towards something to do online for that like 3 years we were all in quarantine. And I think
Yeah.
it's just there were so many people pushing in it now, so many people getting involved. It's becoming a lot more mainstream, which is good for all of us because it gives more opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean that the market's growing faster than ever. The competition is also growing faster than ever. There's never been as many. I mean, we were just talking about it today. Where as of October 7th, there are so many um, just Kickstarters for tabletop games,
Hmm.
5e included, with that are competing for the same the same audience. And as quickly as it's growing, the competition is growing even more so. So it's not necessarily saturated, because I think that there's so many different opportunities, so many different games that you can build upon.
Hmm.
But it's never a better time to be a consumer within the
Yeah.
world of tabletop gaming, because there's just so many options.
Yeah, there's just so many niches and there's so many nerds. Like even with it being as many stuff out there, like most of those Kickstarters get met because there's just so many nerds
Hmm.
out there who want to try new systems and play new supplements and figure out new ways to play their games and stuff. So it's just
Yeah.
we're in a really good space right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't think anybody who's in the space would tell you that it's gonna forever be like this.
Hmm.
We're building up an industry, though, that I think can stand on its own, and obviously has for, as of this year, 50 years.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where it goes, because it's not going away.
Yeah.
It's not going to crash. But I think the growth that it's having, it won't necessarily always be there. So just take advantage of what's going on right now,
Exactly.
and enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I usually like to ask this question to everyone that comes on the podcast just to kind of see how their experience has been. But how long have you been playing tabletops in general, and then like how did that like experience growing up playing that whenever you got into it lead to content creation, like lead into like actually being more involved on that side of it?
Yeah, I think it was 2016 when I first learned about and played in my first Dungeons and Dragons game.
Hmm.
That was when I was in college at UNLV. It came at a time when college football was not necessarily going the way that I thought it was going to go. I was a four-star recruit going to the University of Nebraska, coming off of a torn ACL.
Oof.
Didn't get the opportunity to play there. There's only one quarterback job, and it was not mine, and it was didn't seem like it was going to become mine anytime soon. So I decided to transfer away and go to junior college to try to bounce back. They call it bounce back when you're trying to go from D1 to JUCO to D1. So I did one season at Saddleback College in Orange County, California, and then got the opportunity to go to UNLV. And even still, I got injured again and didn't have my senior year wasn't looking like it was going to be. Actually, my junior year I got injured and didn't seem like it was going to really work out as a professional football player, which was my dreams as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started finding out a little bit more about myself, what got me intrigued and passionate. And I learned that tabletop gaming absolutely was that. And I transferred that nerdiness of comic books into tabletop gaming. It's definitely made the full switch. And ever since then, I've never looked back. And that was before I even knew that there was any kind of content to
Mm-hmm.
ingest as a D&D fan. So, I got very involved with, Adventure Zone and Critical Role. Dungeons and Daddies is a big, I'm definitely a big fan of. And then just, getting to become more invested into the community and into the industry has been such a dream since then. So, yeah, I definitely have been playing for a good, I think, 8 years now. But I was just thinking recently, I had a really cool weekend this last weekend or 2 weekends ago that was called with a group called Dungeons and Cabins. My friend
Mm-hmm.
created this sleepaway summer camp over the course of a weekend where you get to play in a D&D game, and what you do during the day during camp affects your game at night. And I got to
Oh.
DM for that, and that was a really special experience. And the first night is kind of you do session zero, and then you're kind of just getting to know everybody. And I decided it's a big group, and we're all kind of just sitting in a circle, and people are having conversations and stuff. But party games, especially when you're not prepared, are a little bit hard to like. I felt like this would be a great way to kind of break the ice for everybody to
Mm-hmm.
start just like playing a game, just to start getting everybody on the same page and in the idea of role playing and deduction and stuff. And I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to bring back the old classic Mafia, which has been rewritten into One
Mm-hmm.
Nighter, Ultimate Werewolf, just a ton of different games, Secret Hitler, and but the simplest version of it is just Mafia with a deck of cards and just handing out the cards to everybody. And it was so much fun. And I realized that I was running the game as person running the game, saying, okay, who's the Mafia, who is the villagers, blah blah blah. I realized that I was dungeon mastering. I was facilitating the fun for everybody else, and that was very like interesting to me because it preceded my introduction to D&D by about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Learning the game Mafia and running it for friends, and getting game nights together. So there was always that nerdy tabletop board game kind of enthusiast within me, but it just I found its footing finally when I asked my comic book shop what the local D&D games were like.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much crossover and a bunch of nerdy stuff. The amount of stuff I've read from comic books for like plot lines in my games,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and then like I've run so many different systems, but like GM and at its core doesn't really change too much. You're there to
Yeah.
facilitate, you're there to tell a story and then let them add into that story together. And it's addicting. It really is. It's really fun to be able to like I'm gonna make this world and then let you guys develop it and watch that. Like my favorite moments as a GM is when I can just sit back for a second and watch
Hmm.
role play and see
Oh
them like
yeah,
get invested in the game. It's like there's no better feeling than that when you run a game.
absolutely. There's definitely a certain aspect of people pleasing nature that a DM has, but also like a certain aspect um getting to be antagonistic, getting to be the villain, getting to be the person kind of like frustrate the people around you. But in I think in the long term, all it is really is just prolonged this people pleasing, because the whole reason why there's a villain there is to make them so excited to be able to beat them. And just getting to facilitate that joy when the big bad evil guy is finally vanquished is very much just like getting your own joy out of other people
Hmm.
experiencing something that you crafted for them. It's like baking a cake over the course of 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. So my always favorite approach to GM is like I always get maybe a plot point, like a somewhat plot point that they're going for towards the end of whatever, whether it's a one shot or a series or whatever. I don't really plan out much of the middle part until I get their backstories, because
Oh
then
yeah,
I
no,
can be like,
absolutely. I'm
how can I
huge on
get how
backstory
can I get
character
these
creation or story
characters
creation.
to be invested? Like
Yeah.
I had just we had a character death, and as of the time of this airing, my cyborg game will be off the air, so I can talk without spoiling anything.
Nice.
I killed a character in the second episode because the board games are
Wow.
very deadly. Like you can die
Sure.
very easily, and they charged that four gunmen and got shot down. Their character had this whole connection with this like electronic being that was like Dionysus in code, and when that character died, they had made their next character like still tied to that. So I got to like they created this entity for me that was really okay, like cool. I can easily just grab this, use it for my purposes. And now next session, the guy who missed last session, his character's off alone right now while they're in the corporation they're raiding. He's gonna meet this being because he's already communed with it when that character died. So I'm like, you're all
Wow.
alone. This could be an easy way for me to snatch you, bring you to the group, and use something from one of their backstories to do that thing.
Amazing.
It's such a fun
I
thing.
I love getting to. I honestly don't do a ton of, at least for the campaign that lasted the longest for me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do much story creation and narrative creation before I knew what the characters were going to be about and what
Yeah.
their backstory was going to be. I think it's really great to have a an intro adventure, an intro arc that is unrelated because it allows them to kind of come together without letting any of the characters feel overly important,
Mm-hmm.
more so than the other ones. But then just diving in the next few arcs of making every character feel really important to the world, and feel like their actions matter, I think is just so rewarding as a storyteller.
Yeah, it's nice to just be like, here's the theme of the game. Here's kind of some
Hmm.
real notes that I've made. Make a character within that, and then send me your backstory. And then I'm gonna figure out from there what I can do.
Yeah.
And then like, because I run a lot of mini series because I like to try new systems out.
Oh
That's
yeah.
like my whole. I can't stick with one system. I've probably ran like almost 30 systems since I started
That's
playing
very cool.
tabletops in 2019. At this point, and the first few episodes are always like intro episode. We're just gonna have the group meet, see the
Hmm.
vibe, so you can all get to touch each other and like see how each of these characters interact. And then the second episode slowly gets into the plot, and then we fully dive in by episode 3 or 4 from there. That way, I can
I love it.
kind of get that vibe. And like I think I've
Yeah.
gotten good at like matching up people that I know will mesh well because the last few campaigns I ran, the first couple sessions were so good. Like the role play was they were just so fully invested by the first like the end of the first episode already. And it's just such a great feeling.
Amazing.
So do you have any potential AP stuff that you want to run in the future? Do you have any like systems that you haven't ran yet that you want to dive into or any like people you want to
Oh,
play with?
I wish that I could run every system that I've come across and that I want to. Kids on Bikes is definitely a system that I would love
Kids on Bites is fun.
to run a campaign for. I've only ever run one. I've only ever played in one shots, and I think
Hmm.
Kids on Bikes as a campaign would I would really be able to sink my teeth into that. Um, as of this release, I guess I can push this a little bit.
Hmm.
If you want to see a really cool, honestly, it's the first time um, it's ever being revealed to the world as an actual play system.
Hmm.
It's a game called Two Moons Rising. And
Okay.
Paige, you're not allowed to tell anybody about this because I would get in trouble. If you get, but by the time this releases, it'll be out and it'll be fine.
Okay, that's fine. I won't say a
But
thing.
don't tell anybody before Wednesday.
Sounds
um,
good.
I'm appearing in an actual play that was game mastered by Jasmine Bullar,
Okay.
and I got to play in it with Becca Scott, Ify Wadaway, and Abria Iyengar, and myself. We were the four cast members for this really cool game that was sponsored and kind of created on behalf of Square Enix
Ooh.
and their Life is Strange series. It's Two Moons Rising is set in the world of Life is Strange, specifically for their upcoming or for their net new game, Double Exposure.
Okay.
And the game that we played, the system was a completely new system. I forget the working title that if you guys if you know Knox oh God, what's Knox's last name? Knoxweiler Ignatius. One of the creators of the Kids on Bike system.
Mhm.
Um, the Knox has so many titles and has so many incredible skills that it's wild. But Knox created this system specifically for this game, and you can actually download it now. It's kind of a murder mystery,
Hmm.
intrigue, a little bit of paranormal, what's exactly going on. Um, and it was so much fun, super cool to get to play in a brand new system we were basically playtesters for this thing. It had been run for a number of different people behind the scenes, but we were the first time it'd ever be in front of a camera, and the quality of the production quality was incredible. We got to film over at Pixel Circus studios over in LA, and Pixel Circus does an incredible job with their actual play and went all in on production design and the set design for this thing. We very much felt like we were in a little cabin, um, like kind of a summer camp cabin that is just a little bit mysterious. Kind of gave me Firewatch vibes if you've ever played that video game. But it was very fun, and I'm really excited for people to see it. So it should be on YouTube right now by the time of this release. So go check that out, and then download the downloadable PDF that Two Moons Rising is. The game that we played.
That sounds insane. I feel like there's so many more video games that are slowly starting to like cross over into tabletop. Because I know there's a Dragon Age one, there's
Yeah.
Fallout. So I think even
The
Skyrim has
creators
something. There's just so much potential for like video games and tabletops to just mesh.
Yeah. The creators of Life is Strange are very obviously nerds. They include a
Yeah.
ton, like tabletop nerds specifically. Um, include a ton of kind of Easter eggs towards tabletop games. I think they play D&D in one of the episodes of one of their games, and it was very cool to see that translated into the tabletop world. But yeah, I mean, my favorite games that are translated from video games. I guess it's just tabletop games that don't share the name as like the brand or the IP that it was based off of.
Hmm.
I think get me really excited. It's like it's allowing it to become its own thing. Something like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, TTRPG is something that I really want to play, but it's also like it feels to me as somebody who barely knows anything about it and made a ton of money on Kickstarter. Um, it's it's cool to see something that is of something that I love going
Hmm.
into the world that I love of TTRPG. But I also kind of wish that it was like named something different. I don't know.
No,
So
that
that's
makes
why I get
sense.
excited about Two Moons Rising having a different name than just like it's not called Life is Strange TTRPG, you know? It's called Two Moons Rising,
Yeah,
or
that's fair.
whatever the name is. I'm pretty sure it's Two Moons Rising.
Get that distinction just so there's a little bit
Yeah,
of a different feel. Yeah, I've played the Avatar game. It's a lot of fun. I've ran it a few times for people. I need to actually
I want to
play
play
it.
in
I
it.
need to play it.
Yeah.
I see it's the problem. I run all these systems. I'm like, this is cool. I want to play this, and then I'm
You're a
like,
facilitator of fun.
yeah, I'm just like, it's easier for me to just get a group of people than to find someone to run it for me.
It's
So
true. It's true. I mean, just wrangling people is so much easier than hoping to be wrangled,
yeah,
or
I have
wrangling
so
people and then
many
giving somebody else the reins.
I have so many content creator friends and tabletop nerd friends that I don't even need to do open calls for APs anymore. I just be like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I want to get a decent group of people who I think will mesh this system. Bet I got it one net. I'm like
Yeah.
recording a game now. I have one live game, and I already have my net series planned out for 5 people. So
Amazing.
like, it's just so easy to find it
You're
out.
much more organized than I am.
I've had to get organized. My schedule's been hell the last year before I switched
I'm
to
impressed.
pre-records. Like otherwise, I don't know how I'd be doing this podcast and all these APs and stuff, and
Yeah, I'm
still
very
have
impressed.
time to eat.
Yeah.
uh, are you planning any panels or anything for Patch?
Yes. PAX Unplugged, I think. Did we meet at PAX? I forget.
We met at
Um,
Pat's last year. Yeah, we met at
yeah.
I think we met at like that one bar that everyone kept congregating towards
Yes.
in like the middle of the
Circle Bar.
area. Yeah, the
We
Circle
we
Bar.
we named it Circle Bar. Its official name is not Circle Bar, but it's just where everybody in
Everybody
Philadelphia
who
that
did
is.
not have there was no party or anything had plans. Everyone was just there every night.
No, and honestly, the parties are so secondary to whatever's happening over at Circle Bar. Because
the
it's
the parties are
yeah,
fun. They're also more networky though. The Circle Bar
yeah.
was just getting drunk and eating out.
Circle Bar is not named Circle Bar. It's just a bar in a hotel that everybody just congregates at. Um, and it's I can't even remember the name of the hotel. It's just very,
I
very
think
fun
it's a
spot.
Hilton or something. It's just like the hotel that leads
Yeah.
into the convention center. Like there's a
Yeah.
skywalk into the convention center there or something.
It's the best place to stay in Philadelphia for PAX Unplugged, but it's yeah, it's so much fun over there. And uh if people are incredibly nice and friendly, and if you see somebody that like you're a fan of, go and they're at that bar, just go talk to them because they're in a good mood. They're a couple drinks deep. Um yeah,
Yeah,
so anyway, PAX
I didn't
Unplugged.
even know you from a tabletop point. I just knew you were a football player at that point when
I love it.
I was like, why
I
is an
mean,
NFL player here? What the fuck?
I, I love it. It's like, shouldn't you be somewhere?
It's like you're
It's
like
a NFL
tower
weekend.
like besides B Dave and Jesse, you like tower over everybody in this bar.
That is fair. Yeah. You know who else is pretty tall is Todd Kenrick. Todd, I don't think Todd
I don't think I've
I
met
think
Todd
Todd
in
is
person yet.
taller than me. Um, yeah, I've seen him a couple times over Circle Bar. Anyway, PAX Unplugged. This isn't Circle Bar podcast. PAX is one of my favorite conventions, probably my favorite convention. It's the most fun. I compare it to Gen Con, and I know you mentioned that it's like a little
Hmm.
networky over at PAX Unplugged at the parties, which it definitely is, but it's so close to the holidays, and it's like near the end of Q4,
Mm.
and people aren't as interested in trying to make
It's much more laid
deals.
back. Yeah, it's so
It's
much
so
more
much
laid
more laid
back. Gen
back.
Con is
It's
just
so
like
much,
go, go,
yeah.
go the whole time.
Oh my God, it's so exhausting. PAX Unplugged was so much fun. And honestly, I hesitated to like um submit too many events when I was submitting games. I'm like, I kind of just want to enjoy myself this time because
Yeah.
2023 PAX, 2022 PAX was my first PAX, and I had an amazing time, but I was so nervous for the Friday night or maybe Saturday night actual play that I did for Dragonlance for Wizards
Hmm.
of the Coast, in which I was being paid to be there. It was incredible. Um, and then 2023 PAX, I was incredibly nervous because that's where we went with Rick, my co-writer, and
Hmm.
Sam, our artist for Sync. As we went there to try to pitch Sync as a concept to try to get a publisher to create it with us,
Hmm.
and that's how we got on board with Hit Point Press. I had set up like 15 meetings over the course of the weekend, just like going from place to place to place, just trying to pitch Sync to anybody who was interested. And it went great for us. But I also had events to do and like in panels to be on. So it was very busy. And this one, I'm just like, I just want to enjoy it. So I did end up submitting 3 panels, and lucky for me, the the uh, acceptance rate for PAX panels is incredibly
Yeah,
low.
it's been wild
Um,
this year. Like I have like all my creator friends have been either
yeah,
waitlisted or denied. It's wild. Like I'm wondering what is
yeah.
actually going to be like there.
From what I understand, the the room there are less rooms available than normal because of construction that's happening at the convention center.
Oh.
I've also heard that they've used that as excuses in previous years, but I think it's probably just the growing popularity of PAX and the growing popularity of wanting to run events there, that it's
Hmm.
just, they only have so many spots. I still think that there are a lot of people that like I submitted 3 things, and the first one that got denied was a Dread game, a live game of Dread,
Yeah.
the Jenga,
Yes.
horror survival TTRPG that I am obsessed with. I
I
love
love
Dread.
Dread. I had a friend run a Saw
I
game of it, and I was the only one that survived
amazing,
4 games over the weekend that were connected. I
amazing.
don't know how
I
I
think
did
this might be my
it.
first year in a number of years where I'm not running a game of Dread for Halloween. I just am too busy.
I'm
But
running Pirate Board
nice,
for it, and I dragged Diana into it, so they have to play another pirate game.
amazing. Diane is a treasure and such a good sport. Yeah, I so Dread, I really wanted to test like what it would be with a live audience. I thought it'd
Hmm.
be super fun to get uh to get like that tension within the whole room. And obviously it always gets cut by, people making jokes
Yeah.
and giggling and kind of taking a step away from the table from the tower, but the tension would have been incredible to play with. The only hard part would have been trying to get a the game done in that amount of time. But that got denied, unfortunately. I was really excited about that. Hopefully another convention I can do that. The one that got waitlisted was a game of Sync
Okay.
that I was actually not going to be involved with, or at least on stage. It was going to be run by my co-creator Rick. and have some incredible creators alongside us. And still hoping that that gets accepted because it did get waitlisted. The one that did get accepted though is kind of an extension of my podcast, Athletics Check. So Athletics Check is my podcast. Talking about, if you didn't realize, I'm a nerd athlete.
What?
If
No,
you didn't
what?
realize this
Wild.
at this point. I I get to talk to people on Athletics Check. I get to talk to nerds about their relationship with sports,
Mhm.
and I got to talk to athletes and people in the sports world about their what they get nerdy about, what they're passionate
Yeah.
about. And I've had guys like Clint McElroy on my podcast. He got to talk about kind of growing up as a Bengals fan and as an athlete.
Oof, rough.
I got to talk to Ryan Nemeth, who is a AEW wrestler, about how nerdy he gets about sharks.
I know who Ryan Nemeth is.
Um,
I was a big Dolph Ziggler fan when he was in the WWE.
yes.
So,
Oh my God, I love Dolph. Yeah, and they're Cleveland
yep.
family. They're incredibly cool people. I haven't had the chance to meet Nick yet, but Ryan's a really good guy. And some really fun interviews that I've done. There are 9 episodes out right now. We've had a little bit of a hiatus because turns out running Kickstarter gets you really busy, and I haven't had the chance to interview anybody in a while. But I have my next interview coming out, coming up soon, so we'll
Hmm.
get that turned around really fast. Um, so the one that the panel that did get accepted by PAX was athletes and it's called athletes and tabletop. I'm not really going to use the athletics check name for it because it's not going to
Yeah.
help it at all. But athletes and tabletop, blurring the lines of nerd and jock, I think is what the subtitle is. A huge part of why it was accepted was that I got my good buddies who are in the Two Moons Rising show with me.
Hmm.
Quiddy, I called her Quiddy because it's her social media handle. Abria Iyengar, and Ify Wadaway. We're going to be
Awesome.
on that panel with me, as well as Tank Tolman, who is an
Oh,
incredible
I
social
love
media
Tank. I
creator.
just met
He's
Tank at
the
Gen Con this
nicest
year. He's
guy.
such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy. If you don't know who Tank is, he is the bearded Viking
Yes.
spreading positivity on his social media that I'm sure you've come across. He's a big tabletop nerd. I got to meet him at Gen Con as well,
Yeah.
and he's a former MMA fighter, which I did not know.
Ooh.
So
That,
getting
you know
him
what?
in,
That made sense.
it makes total sense. So getting him in on the tabletop, nerds and tabletop, or jocks and tabletop, I think it's athletes and tabletop. That's what it's called. Uh, into that panel was a huge get. So
That's
getting
dope.
those 3 people are a huge reason why my
Yeah,
panel
that
got
definitely
accepted.
helps. Yeah, I met. Yeah,
Yeah.
we met Tank at my group met Tank at Gen Con. There was like a little area over in the balconies where we just like sit and decompress because it's a
Mm,
lot. And he literally was so worn out one day, he just like wandered over to our group and just sat down with us for like a couple hours and chatted.
I believe it. He's a very
Did
nice,
you get to
approachable
see
guy.
the D20 that he had? Like he had like this giant glass D20 that had like an owlbear terrain thing inside of it that someone just gave
I
him.
saw him at a party, so he probably didn't have that on him at the time.
That's so fair. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was dope. I need it. It's probably super fucking expensive though. But yeah, I think we have reached our half point. Yeah, we are about our halfway through the podcast now. So if you want to take the reins and tell everyone what you're going to talk about today for your Lord Dump.
Oh man, Lord Dump. I don't know. My two main things are so out there in
It
the
does not
world.
matter. It can literally, this is just my excuse to have friends and creators on that I know to
Yeah.
just have them fixate to me. Like I love hearing
Yeah.
people's fixations, so go for it.
So that is and this isn't going to be my fixation. This isn't going to be my Lord Dump. I had the opportunity of doing a TEDx talk earlier this year,
Ooh, okay.
and it's on YouTube right now. Uh, and a lot of what I talked about, I think it was kind of more the main crux of what I talked about was how I really enjoy getting to hear people nerd out to me. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what it is, but getting to see people find passion and then use that passion in their life, whether it's just for their own personal reasons or as like a way to combine them, like a brand, like I did with Athletics Check,
Hmm.
is really special to me because being nerdy about something is just synonymous with being passionate about something, and everybody wants people to be passionate about something. I think it's very fun. It's going off on tangents right now, and I guess this is kind of the whole point of this
This whole point of this
section.
podcast, you're
Um,
good.
and this has nothing to do with actual like. It's more just like learning what I think is Like it's fun to learn things.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really consider myself much, I guess I can consider myself a content creator, but not a very good one, just because I rarely actually post, and I don't think of things in that way as like an opportunity to post.
Yeah, I'm
And
off. I'm along that way. I do my AP stuff, like, and this is like the most consistent
yeah,
stuff. But like the actual like short form and like post and stuff, I'm so bad at.
yeah, it's very difficult for my brain because I don't want to be like, oh, I live in the moment kind of thing, but I kind of, it's just like, I don't think about that as an opportunity to share those ideas
Mm,
afterwards. I think it's very similar to like a stand-up comedian being able to pull things from their life to be able to tell us stories on
yeah.
stage. Like I don't have that skill. So thinking about like I had I also big year for me. I also went viral a couple times on TikTok and
The
um
video of you
uh
progressively thrown in the Ren Fair outfit, is that one of them?
yeah,
I
that was the
I
one I was
saw
talking
that. Yeah,
about.
I saw that one.
I had no idea. So if you don't know and you didn't see it, I went viral on TikTok um for doing the trend to the Freebird song of running in and out of the room, progressively getting more dressed in an outfit, and that was like that was the trend. I decided to use it as like a getting ready for Ren Fair into my
Hmm.
pirate outfit. Um, and it took off way more than I expected to. I was more like oh, this is a fun idea. I rarely get these ideas of like this would be fun to do. Um, and it took off specifically, which I now have learned because it really targeted the female gaze, Gaze, not Gays, because I I learned that the female gaze and the male gaze. I've always known this. The female gaze and the male gaze are very different. But I've never specifically tried to target one or the other, I guess.
Nope.
Um,
I understand that I just moved to Chicago, so I've been going out more and more femme because in Ohio it
yes,
wasn't something I could do, and I've
sure.
gotten the male gaze from like some gay guys in the gay area of town, and it's just like, that's different.
As a guy myself, I think about the like the male gaze more, but it's like, oh, I gotta look cool, I gotta look good, I
Hmm.
gotta look sexy, you know? And then when you learn that looking excited about something and being passionate about something, like the apparently that I did a good job of in that video, is actually what captures the female gaze,
Yeah, passion and
is
confidence are huge.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that blew my mind. Um, Relating that back to my TED talk of like just being passionate about something truly
Hmm.
is attractive. It truly is what not just attractive in like romantic like sexual way, but attractive as like um magnetic.
Yeah, you want to be
Like
around people who are passionate about the things they're into.
yeah.
Like, that's the whole reason behind the show. It's like I have
Yeah.
so many friends that are always talking about this cool creative stuff or hobbies that they're into, and I'm like, why? I can just do this and just have an excuse to bring my friends on and talk to them for like an hour and a
Mhm.
half about their stuff. Like, I had a movie
People want
night.
to talk people want to talk to about things. When
Yes,
people want to
exactly.
talk to people about things, and the amount of people just think that they're awkward because they don't have they can't immediately think of something to talk about, when it's been said time and time again, like uh ask people about themselves and what they're
Yes,
excited about.
exactly.
And maybe it puts people on the spot, but it like I think the majority of people have something that they could talk about for hours. And uh and just finding like encouraging people to to talk about that
Hmm.
is I think a really important thing to make friends and influence people
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah, like I had a movie night with some friends on Sunday, and at the end of it, we were just like talking about some random stuff after, and one of our friends brought up a PowerPoint and just lore dumped for an hour on like the Shadowhunter book series.
I
It
love
was
that.
such a cursed like
To prepare
presentation,
for the
but they
to
were
prepare for
so
the
into it.
yeah, to prepare for the TED Talk, I did a PowerPoint night with friends where we all got drunk,
I want to do one of those
and
so bad. They
it's
always
so
look so
good.
much fun.
It's so
I
good.
don't know what I would even do. Like eventually the plan you were the first one to hear this and it's the audience first one to hear this. I do plan at some point to bring on a friend who does podcasts to interview me so I can lure them about something and I don't even know what the fuck I want to talk about yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just talking about talking
I
right
mean,
now.
I've
But
had a few episodes where it's gotten very rambly, so it's so fun. Like there's a reason it's
yeah.
been moved from an hour to up to an hour and a
It
half now because like
yeah.
an hour wasn't long enough.
Yeah, if we get to the point where we actually do need to start focusing in on something, I can talk about something. I can talk about whatever for a good amount of time. But yeah, this PowerPoint night was super fun. There's nothing like having friends who are willing to do homework for a party with you.
Right?
Because there was there's a TikTok that I watched that I actually ordered the book that they talked about, which was I haven't read it yet, but it's about it's about throwing parties. And you might think that like that's just a
Hmm.
silly thing, like it feels very like Victorian, kind of very like, oh, a ball, like how do you throw the best ball? No, it's about gathering people. And I think I am going. I never gone on so many tangents. One of the things that I learned last year that I really admire about people is the ability to
Yeah.
connect not to people, but connecting other people. Obviously, connecting to people is something to admire, but connecting other people not only allows some of your like possibly favorite people to kind of play matchmaker as friends with
Hmm.
specific people, but also kind of gives you not in a kind of like megalomaniacal kind of way, but gives you kind of a power of I got to connect those people. Now I get the opportunity to like hang out with more of my friends.
No, it's so
But
cool. Like I've had so many friends that I've ran stuff before. They did not known each other before and are friends
yeah,
now. And it's
yes,
so cool to be able to like mesh your friend group sometimes and mesh different connections to be like, oh, they don't need me there and can still enjoy themselves. That's such a dope
yes,
concept.
it really is. It really is. And getting to going back to the PowerPoint party and find or like the party book.
Hmm.
The one TikTok that I really found really special, that like their idea was being intentional and doing the work to make people feel uh like you're trying to do something special for them, and not just do something
Yeah.
special like, oh, I did something nice for you and I was considerate. It's less about being considerate and more about finding um like it goes back to the same thing, facilitating fun.
Yeah.
If you're putting on a party and your guests feel like you just like threw some chips in a bowl and got people to come to the same location, that's not going to be the same party as you writing your own murder mystery
No,
and
that's so
giving
real.
roles out to people and really feeling taken care of, and like they're in the palm of your hand, and that you're being very intentional for their every need and giving and facilitating their fun.
No,
So
that's
finding a
so
group
fair.
that will do homework for a party because you did homework for a party is really important as somebody who is entering their 30s.
I understand that I'm in my 30s and all my friends are in their mid 20s. So,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
feel like all of my friends lately are like 27 to 24, and it's wild.
yeah.
But yeah, I have a housewarming party actually here for Chicago in like, I want to say 3 weeks from now. And I'm debating surprising them with a 10 candles game. I
Oh,
need to
that's
get the
cool.
logist of it to planned out because I do have like
Well, the
wooden
logistics of
floors.
10 candles of a 10 candles game is very fortuitous because of the character creation itself. Like there's not a
Hmm.
whole lot of preparation that a player needs to do.
Yeah, there's not. I could easily just give them a couple facts to pick a character, and then
Yeah.
we would just go with it. It's not something I would need
Well,
to
yeah,
be
and it's
plan ahead of time.
the idea of doing a group character creation is just my favorite thing about 10 candles.
Yeah, I love group character creation in general for
Yeah.
a lot of systems. Like I'm planning my next pre-record is a Candela Obscura game, and there's so much like circle and like the circle creation is such a team building thing that I'm just baking it into
Yeah.
our session zero for that next month
I
because
love
it's
that.
just gonna be like we'll just pick our characters. There's 5 roles. There's 5 of you. We can kind of just do it all together at the same time, and then we can kind of know each other's characters before we even get to that first session.
Hmm.
So
I love it. I will warn you though, 10 Candles is a heavy game, and I would I would make
I'm
sure that your
ready.
guests are coming in with the right mindset.
Oh, I totally will. I'm once I get the idea down, I will be like, "Hey, I'm gonna run a horror game when you guys show up." So here's some things to know. But yeah, I've been such a horror deep dive lately. I've ran so many horror games in the last like few months. I've ran Monster of the
Would you
Week.
consider would you consider Dread and or 10 Candles to be among the best of them, because I those are the main ones that I've run. I've also played in an Alien game that I think is fun.
Alien's fun. I've played an
Aliens is
Alien.
fun, but I don't necessarily get a ton of horror vibes out of it.
Alien's a little more crunchy. It just depends on how the facilitator runs. Like the one
Yeah.
I did, there was only two of us because people backed out. It was like an offline game, and it ended with the other PC pulling the bandolier grenades off in the room where they at, which had like a fire pit under it, and just the end scene was just my character running the fuck out of the facility to survive.
Nice.
And it felt like I felt panicked. It felt great. Like it was a good
Sure.
session. So I think it's not necessarily the system. I think it's how you present it. Like
Sure.
my cyborg game last episode, they just got to the part of the campaign where it's the horror is going to start because it's been like, oh, it's kind of like cyberpunk. We're fucking around. We're at the club, getting into shooting and stuff. They get into the building and it immediately transforms in front of their face, and it's all Eldritch now, and it's just like
Mm.
the
Yeah, there's a
immediate
lot of body
flip.
horror that can
The
happen with cyborgs,
Yep,
cyberpunk kind
yep.
of, yeah.
I have a Eldritch being in the chip that they're trying to steal, and they interacted with her for the first time last episode, and like all of their faces after we went off the air were just so great.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's the best. I think that's the best thing about horror. It doesn't really matter the system. It's just you have to set the setting so that like people get invested and feel that like
Yeah.
sense of urgency.
Yeah, I don't think I feel quite as much um fulfillment as a DM as when I do when I run a horror game. I
Yeah,
think getting to, because you get the immediate satisfaction of I scared them or I made them
yeah.
feel
It's such a dopamine.
anxiety.
It's like you immediately know if they're invested because there's no
Yeah.
way to like get around that. You're gonna immediately see
Yes.
that initial reaction when you do something horrific out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Or just building the tension. There's nothing like there being so much tension at the table
I
and just being
love
able
that.
to just get giddy
Just
over it.
throw in little subtle
Um,
clues as it starts getting into that point. Like I threw
yeah.
so many subtle hints at them, and I had this like creature like reaching out to them in private chats during. And then at the end, when one of them was alone, she just showed up and slammed him into the ground and was talking to him. And I'm like, I
Wild.
love that reaction. It's so great.
Wild.
So yeah, I think that's why I just am stuck on doing horror for right now because it's so fulfilling. It's so
It's
fun.
addicting.
It
Yeah.
really is. Eventually, I'll get back to running like a superhero campaign or something.
Yeah, I think I've never run a superhero game before, and I think the for one, the reason, like some of the reasons why I've yet to do so or haven't found um the motivation to do so is D&D in itself. You kind of becomes a superhero game. You're going around, these
Yeah,
super
can be.
powered individuals go from town to town to try to save the day. And I know it's obviously there's tons of differences in genre in the mechanics of any of these
Hmm.
systems and stuff, but the the idea of the reason why by low level D&D is so much more popular than running high level D&D is the fact of making something difficult is a lot easier, and building that tension and building that fear of for your character's safety is a
Yeah,
whole lot
that's
easier
fair.
to pull off. And as a superhero, that's obviously very, very tough to do. Or at least this is for somebody who like knows the genre as a comic book nerd, but not as a tabletop somebody who's experienced that in tabletop. So how do you are you it sounds like you're experienced in running
Mm.
superhero games, and
I at the time of this out, I should already have a promo up for it, but I am
nice.
starting an X-Men game.
Oh, cool. I actually have been wanting to play that.
I play tested like the first initial play test of it, like way
Cool.
back when it came out, when it was very, very complicated. It's definitely gotten better since then. But as soon as I
Hmm.
saw they released the X-Men supplement, I was like, there goes $100 at Gen Con. So yeah,
Yeah,
I've been wanting to have a game on my channel for like a long time that's just kind of like no pressure. If we miss a session, we just continue the story continuously,
sure.
like have different arcs and just come back to it, never ever. So as soon as X-Men came out, I was like, X-Men's always been my superhero team. Like
Hmm.
I am a longtime Bobby Drake stan. That's my favorite superhero in
Very cool.
any of the universes. And
I love it.
being able to just like I'm going to be meshing together all the comic systems and the Marvel universe, like the cinematic universe. And I already fan casted like all the major characters to run into.
Hell yeah.
I'm just so excited for it. So yeah, this system's gonna be so much fun. I definitely, you know what? I mean, I'm gonna have guest appearances. So if you think of a hero or villain you want to come on for an episode or two and
Ooh.
show up as, I'll let you know when there's an arc for them.
Hell yeah. I'd have to look through my Marvel Snap roster of character of like obscure characters that nobody's ever heard of.
Marvel Snap, God, I haven't been on there in a few months. It got
Yeah.
addicting. I had to stop for a little bit because I was just playing it
It's addicting.
constantly. It
It's
was so
very
rad.
addicting.
So bad. And did you see
Um,
that Marvel like Overwatch game that's coming out soon?
I have. I actually saw a lot over at San Diego Comic Con, but I've never played it.
I want to play it so it looks so good. I've
Yeah.
I've been an Overwatch person, so when that came out, I was like,
Yeah.
I need that
I
to
was an
drop
Overwatch
now.
person when it first came out, and I haven't back in and
I
never
played
like
it
since
I
like
play it like
2017.
on and off occasionally. Like I'm a
Yeah.
big Ariza person, so I go on just tank.
Okay.
I'll just do solo queues and tank, and then end up having
It's
to
wild seeing
DPS too
characters that I
because
just don't
people.
recognize anymore.
Yeah, they just dropped a space character, which anything spacey is an immediately like hit for me. So I've been trying her out.
Cool.
If I'm not a support player, so I'm not doing well.
Nice. I
But
was a Zenyatta main,
ooh, okay.
just because I like a lot of passive abilities in games that I don't have to think about.
Well, if you're wanting back in Overwatch, let me know. We'll have a game. We'll have a game at night. We'll get
Oh
some
yeah,
people and play some Overwatch.
I love it. Um, yeah, there's Overwatch RPG would be fun.
Ooh,
Although there's just so much in that. Where I was just talking to somebody about this recently. I got a party about how um I'm blanking. Blizzard has incredibly dropped the ball on the storytelling aspects with
yeah.
Overwatch.
I mean, Blizzard's dropped the ball on a lot of stuff, to be honest.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, they
They've never
they
done
they
what are you
put
talking
it
about? They've
out.
never done anything wrong in their
What?
whole history.
No, wild. No, it's nothing problematic whatsoever. Yeah, they tried, and then I feel like they gave up on it so easily. Like they didn't. They like had a story set. What is it like for a couple months, and then they scrapped it.
I mean, you can only do so much when you're doing these incredibly well animated 2 minute shorts.
Hmm.
Um,
There's just so
and
much
then I think they
lore
went,
for Overwatch. There's so much potential,
yeah,
but it's yeah, they just dropped the ball so big on it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
my
I've
next
definitely fallen off of knowing what's going on for the last
I
7 years.
mean, October is a big month for me video game wise because Sparking Zero drops tomorrow for Dragon Ball, which
Cool,
I will probably get next paycheck, and then at the end of the month is Dragon Age Velguard, which I'm so fucking excited for. That will be
nice,
my life up into Pats for pretty much.
amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, is there did you decide on any clear thing you want to like lord up about now? After we got through the
Mm.
tangent there for a little bit.
Oh, I'll have 5 minutes to talk
You
about.
have you have as much time as you want. It's only 15 minutes in, so we can go up to an hour and a half. So it's up to you.
All right. It won't be too long. I'm the reason why I hesitate to talk about it. It's funny. My friend had a podcast that I was on years ago.
Hmm.
That had a similar thing of like, hey, just nerd out about something. This is for like the Patreon listeners only. But I talked about like sneakers
Okay.
on that. Then it was like I was very much into that that culture. I've recently now kind of going out of it. I'm going to keep a few Jordans that I really enjoy, like the Jordan 1 Chicago's. The first time I ever wore them was when I proposed to my wife, to my now wife.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of them have like, they're either I can see their value going much higher in the next, years, or they have a lot of sentimental value to me. But a lot of them I'm trying to sell, and I've sold a good number of them at this point. Um, but for a good amount of time, starting really in 2018 when I was with the Minnesota Vikings and kind of had money for the first time, I was like, oh, sneakers are cool. This is like something that I enjoy and have access to and want to like kind of pursue. Um, so I was very much into getting the Jordan 1 drops.
Hmm.
I'd kind of in and out of like fours and threes, 11s. I think I have. I at one point I had three pairs of the Jordan 11s, and I don't know how much of this is making any kind of sense to you,
No,
but
you're good. I
um,
was a pretty big sneaker. I didn't like buy them to collect them, but I had a lot.
yeah,
I tried to throw out a lot of shoes when I transitioned.
yeah,
That I just like I'm not gonna wear these anymore.
sure.
But I collected like I still have my Kobe. What Kobe's are they? They're one of his last pairs. It's like the
Oh, cool.
dark ones, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it's like the 80 dark or whatever. I was a big
I
Kobe person. I had like 5 or 6
I
pairs of
love Kobe.
Kobe's. Yeah, Kobe's were
I
my
love
issue.
Kobe.
I loved his brand a lot more than Jordan's for some reason.
Yeah, not so fun fact. I got when I got signed by Cleveland, the day that I flew in was
Hmm.
while I was on the plane was when the news that Kobe had passed away dropped.
Yeah,
That was
that was sad.
incredibly weird walking off the plane and seeing everybody get the notification on their phone. Um, I have one pair of Kobe's that I'm actually trying to get rid of. It's the Kobe One Protros, the original Nikes that he had,
Ooh,
the black and purple ones. I think they were called blackouts. Those are cool, but I've worn those a ton to work out or to play basketball in, and they're just trashed at this point. I'm probably not going
yeah.
to be able to sell them.
I've worn my
Um,
Kobe's maybe like 10 times
yeah,
because I just don't
there's
want to wear them all the time because they're just so
yeah,
nice. And
no,
like,
there's a handful of shoes that I just have not worn very much. The Chicago's are the main one of those. I just don't, I want to keep those for very,
yeah,
very
I think
special
my
occasions.
Kobe's now are like if I'm going to the club and I'm not wearing a dress, then I might
Yeah,
break them out type thing.
sure.
Besides that, I don't know. Because also like
Yeah,
I'm learning about female shoes now, and there's not as much selection in my size. So
sure. Yeah.
it's a lot of a learning curve from that. So like I'm even tempted to still buy some sneakers in men's sizes just because
I mean,
there's
there's
still a lot of them that are like very in the middle ground because female
hmm
like tennis shoes do not look that much different than male ones,
no.
honestly. It's usually
I was
just
gonna
color
say,
palettes, if anything.
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I feel like sneaker culture is definitely one of the ones that is very unisex.
Yeah.
Of like, anybody can really wear anything. And there are many times where I've been jealous of the female selection of like a certain drop for dunks might happen and it's like
Yeah,
only in women's
I
sizes.
feel like especially with like the high tops have a lot of
Hmm.
crossover. I feel like because
Yeah,
I see so many girls walking around in like high top Jordans, especially now that I'm in
definitely.
Chicago. Like
Sure.
such a
Yeah,
common thing here.
absolutely. Yeah, I've there's been a number of times where like I think the Jordan 1 bread what's it called? The shiny kind of leather, patent leather. I think
Hmm.
one of those drops that I really wanted was only in women's sizes. But I get to a point now where it's like, yeah, the the sneaker bubble has probably burst at this point and people aren't trying to buy up shoes as quickly as they used to.
Yeah.
Um, but there's still definitely some value there, and um, I've had my fun with it. I was one of the very lucky few who, uh, off of the sneakers app, got the Jordan 1 Travis Scott Mochas, the original Travis Scott Nike collaboration,
Hmm.
when it literally broke the app.
Damn.
In trying to release those, and I somehow got those, and I've since sold them because I wore them I think 2 or 3 times, but one of which was during the my first tunnel walk as like for my first NFL game that I was active in. I
Oh yeah.
wore those for an outfit, which was cool.
That's
I
dope.
wore those, a pair of jeans with a a Rolling Stones like tie-dye brown and black shirt with a Death Saves jacket over it. So like the Joe Manganiello Death Saves D&D brand, which
Hmm.
was neat. And he in himself is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So when he
Oh,
found out about it, he sent me a message, said, "Hey, let's send you some Death
gross.
Save stuff, and I'll send you even more if you head over to the Steelers instead of being on the Browns." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was cool.
At
It
least
was,
at least it's in Pennsylvania. He's just on the wrong side.
yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, he was very cool about that.
That's cool. Speaking of, I don't really honestly like. I knew you as a football player just because I lived in Ohio more than anything
Sure.
else. So, like, where did you get drafted by Minnesota then, and then end up in Cleveland from there?
I did not get drafted. I was not good enough to get drafted coming out of college, coming out of UNLV. But I did get the opportunity to. I had a good pro day,
Hmm.
and Minnesota invited me to their training camp, to their rookie mini camp, in which their a rookie mini camp is interesting because not every team does it like this, but
Hmm.
the Vikings, at least at the time, did a and this is I think what they probably still do is they bring in their rookies for a weekend camp. It's like Thursday through Sunday,
Hmm.
um, at least a practice a day. They also have walkthrough that is very competitive and active. About their signed guys, which they maybe have, you have let's say roughly about 7 draft picks, and then you maybe sign
Yeah.
about 13 guys on top of that. So you have about 20 guys who are actively with the on the roster. And then you have about 40 guys who are trying to fight for spots.
Oh, damn.
Just guys who are trying out for the team who it was, you get put in like a different locker room. You're not like you're it's very obvious that you're not part of the team, but you're competing with these guys and kind of practicing with them to fill out a whole roster so that they
Hmm.
can go through the introductory period of being on the team, going through practices and stuff with a full like
Well, yeah,
group of
because the
guys.
roster is also like much larger at the beginning of the preseason than by week one, too,
Yes.
right?
Yes. No, you have 90 guys on this on the roster during the off season, and then you have 50 what, a 53 man roster, I think is now.
Yeah, I think it's
Uh,
53.
yeah, 53-man roster that gets cut before week one. After they when I was in the NFL, it for a while it was like okay, first week of preseason there's some cuts, week two of preseason there's some cuts, week three there's the final cut to the 53-man roster. When I was in the league, it was all of the cuts happened after the final week of the preseason. Um, Now it's back to the sequential.
Hmm.
But when you're going through this rookie mini camp, you have about 60 guys that are on the field, but only 20 of them are actually on the team.
Hmm.
The draft picks are completely safe. Like those guys aren't going to like they're practicing and stuff and working hard and kind of showing up for the coaches, but their spot is not up for grabs. So you're really looking at like 10 to 13 guys whose jobs might be at risk of a guy trying out for the team.
Hmm.
Just so happened to be trying out at tight end for the Vikings at the time, a position that I'd literally never played before, at least at the very least in pads, and performed well enough to the team that where they thought that I was more promising than the guy that they had signed and gave a signing bonus to join the team. And so they cut him and then signed me at the end of the weekend, which was like imagine auditioning for something that you had no idea for and spot was already filled
Yeah.
and and you end up getting it somehow, but you don't find out that you're getting it until like the end of the weekend. Like basically what happened was the end of the Sunday practice like happened, and after the practice is over, I caught the last ball of practice. It was a good feeling. I'm like, okay, I really did well here. I think I can feel really good about how I did, and I can go into the next opportunity hoping that I can do as well and maybe make a team or something. And right after the huddle broke, I had one of the scouts run up to me and say, "Hey Johnny, we're going to keep you for another night if that's okay. We're going to have you go through the we're going to go to the doctor's appointments and stuff, go through the physicals." And I'm like, "Okay." And they didn't give me any more information than that. They just said, "Okay, stay in your room for another night, and we're going to give you some doctor's appointments tomorrow." So I'm thinking it has to be something that's probably good. I found out that there were
Yeah.
three other guys who got held and got that same message. So we're talking to each other and like, does this mean like that they're considering us? Does this mean like what exactly does this mean? And they said like we're all just trying to figure it out. We all go through the doctor's appointments, it all goes well. And then they take us back to the facility the next morning after the doctor's appointments, and they have us in this big team meeting room, and they have us in there for a good like 15 minutes before one of the assistant general managers comes in and says, "All right, we're going to sign you guys." And we're like, "What? There's not like a big ceremony that happens? Like that's it? You're signing us?" It's like, "Yeah, we just talked to all of your guys' agents, and you can sign on the dotted line. You're going to be a Minnesota Viking." So it
Yeah,
was the
sounds
weirdest
sounds like
thing.
they just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure you guys were all medically cleared, and then they were just
Oh
handling
yeah.
all the back end stuff while you were doing busy for the day.
No, absolutely. It was very, very interesting. Getting to be told like that. And then the coolest part was, my parents knew that I was staying
Mhm.
overnight, a night longer than the rest of the guys at camp. And so they were eager to find out like what happened. So I called them afterwards and they said, "Hey Johnny, how's it going? How did the doctor's appointments go?" And I said, "Oh, they went well. They went well. I'm just over here at the facility right now." It's like, "Oh yeah, how's it going? Like, what's going on? What'd they tell you?" And like they had these a million questions over the course of a minute. I'm like, guys, I'm officially a Minnesota Viking." And they all like erupted. It was the coolest feeling. And then the wildest thing was that they send you back home. I still have to go through finals at UNLV for my senior year,
Hmm.
and go through graduation and stuff. And literally the next weekend, I'm going to be flying back to Minnesota to continue camp and stuff.
What did you get
And
your degree in?
kinesiology,
Yeah,
kinesiology.
makes sense.
Yeah, I was trying to go pre-med for a while, and then I failed OChem too. Um, but there was the wildest thing that happened was when I am at the airport flying back to Las Vegas from Minnesota.
Hmm.
I met up with one of the other players who was with me. He was flying to, I forget now, but he was not on the same flight as me. And I met up with him, really good guy, and we grabbed a beer together. Like, let's celebrate. Let's have a beer over at the airport. So we're there super early, and I get the notification: Minnesota Vikings have tagged you in a tweet. Like, oh, cool! Like that's like they're going to announce that, like they're about to announce that they signed us, and that I also had no idea like who got dropped.
Hmm.
So they they post on Twitter saying we have signed 4 undrafted free agents. Um, Brett Taylor, blah blah blah, like all these the 3 other guys, and then Johnny Stanton, number 48, fullback. Like,
That's
what
how you
the
found out you were
hell?
playing
That's
fullback.
how I found out that I was playing fullback instead of tight end. And it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, okay, I guess I had to learn a new position now, just,
I
from
mean,
Twitter.
fullback and tight end has some crossover. It's you're pretty
There's
much doing
definitely
the
some
tight end's
crossover,
job
but
behind the line.
yes, no, it's definitely some crossover, but the techniques are incredibly different.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And trying to transition from fullback to tight end in my final preseason, final training camp was super,
Yeah,
super
you just
hard.
got ready to do tight end coming from quarterback, and now you have to switch
I
positions
know it.
again. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Luckily, I didn't have time to get too used to tight end because I never
Yeah,
like got to put on pads against another guy.
yeah.
And then it was just about throwing my shoulder into somebody.
No, I get that. I played football in middle school,
Hmm.
and I was going to play freshman year of high school, but my parents couldn't afford to put me through it. But I was trying out for fullback in freshman year.
Nice. Nice.
It's definitely different things. I played a lot of defense in middle school and then switched over to
Hmm.
playing fullback in high school, and it's
Yeah.
just like
There's a lot of
it's a
crossover
lot of
there with the
shift.
mentality.
Yeah, still just hitting people was like the
Hmm.
main thing because my high
Yeah.
school was still a very run heavy team, so like the fullback was
Mhm.
just there to lay people out. So it was really
Sure.
much of a change. But yeah, I gave up football very quickly after that.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, but that's cool.
Well,
So you,
I didn't talk about sneakers very much because I'm not honestly
it's
that
okay.
passionate about them anymore.
You're not the first person I've wrote like multiple topics for what their lore dump is because we've talked about multiple things, so it's completely
I think
fine.
we mostly
Yeah, that's
talked
what I
about
put.
like,
I put connection, sports, and sneakers. I'll figure out a
yeah,
title later.
there you go.
So you play? How long did you play in Minnesota, and then how long did you play in Cleveland?
My rookie year in Minnesota lasted until I broke my ankle in the second preseason game.
Damn injuries,
The
dude.
first
That's
the first
rough.
preseason game was in Denver, playing against who ended up he was my high school receiver when I was playing quarterback. He's
Okay.
one of my best friends in the world. He ended up being my best man at my wedding. It was my first NFL preseason game, his second season starting with the Denver Broncos, and I did not play particularly well, and it was very like I was not going to make the team by any means this camp. Honestly got lucky to be in a position where I got paid for the rest of the year because that probably wouldn't have happened if I'd stayed healthy. But I broke my ankle in the second preseason game, and um, yeah, I the rest of the year I spent recovering from that. They released me after I cleared a physical, and then 2019 I was off the team the whole season or the whole year until the Vikings called me back up to be on practice squad, which only lasted for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And then after I had cut, the Browns called me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to come out and try out and do a workout with us?" And that was at that time I was kind of bought in on trying to regain some legitimacy and some credibility
Yeah.
as an athlete. So I was full bore going into the XFL at the time, because I was already drafted by the LA XFL team,
Hmm.
and they I ended up getting cut by them. So I told the Browns no, like I'm not going to go work out with you guys. You guys aren't going to make the playoffs at this point. This would be kind of just spending a lot of time not on a team and not being active as a football player. Like I want to get in pads, in cleats, on a field. And what ended up happening was that the team didn't use a fullback. The XFL team didn't end up using a fullback, and they cut me that year,
Yeah.
or that after training camp. And the Browns had called me again about 3 days before I got cut, or 2 days before I got cut, saying if I'd be willing to just go up there and get signed. And I said honestly I would at this point, but I'm under contract with the LA Wildcats with the XFL, so I can't. So after I cut, I'm like, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. They called me down there on cut day. They said we're going to release you, and honestly they just didn't have any idea what they were doing. And I clarified with them, so I'm not under contract at this point, right? It's like, yeah, you're not under contract. Your contract is officially terminated. I said,
Left
okay,
it, left
great.
it, and called Cleveland.
Yeah, like I immediately called my agent, who's literally he's 2 hours before he's it's like 6:30 a.m. at this point in
Mhm.
Houston, and he lives in LA. And I called him, and he didn't answer because it's 4:30 in the morning over there. And when he finally gets back to me, I'm like, hey, can you go call Cleveland and see if they want a failed XFL fullback? So they call him, and like a week or two later, I'm flying over to Cleveland and going through the physical process and get signed.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it was a wild time for sure.
Yeah, I think that's when you came on my radar too. Because like I'm not an Ohio sports fan. I left Ohio as soon as I possibly could. I
Hmm.
grew up a Philly sports fan and everything, but I was aware enough of the Ohio teams to know that you played for the Browns. Like I didn't know, I don't think I knew what your position was originally. Like I heard the
Yeah.
name, it was like Cleveland signed this person. Um, but yeah, so like when I ran into you at Pats, I was like, what the fuck?
I love it.
So yeah,
I love it. Yeah, it was man, Philadelphia is fun. I've only ever gone to Philadelphia for PAX, and
yeah, that was my
it
first
gives
time
it
going to Philly was Pats last year. And
really.
I really debated getting Eagles tickets that weekend as we were playing the Niners that weekend
Hmm.
too. I was like,
Yeah, that was a big game. I remember that.
it's like I could make it. And I looked at the schedule. We do have a home game during Pats weekend this year,
I believe
but
it.
I think it's a shit game. And they were playing someone. It's probably going to be a win. And so I don't know if I want to go to a game that's not competitive, if it's not a rivalry game. So I don't know if I'm going to bother this year. But
I feel
eventually,
like it's
I will
worth
go
it.
to the link.
You gotta
Yeah,
get in the Kelly Green.
I feel like I want to wait until it's just a Cowboys or Giants game though when I go to the link for a game. Like I
I'm gonna
have
look
to
at
do it right.
I'm gonna look at the schedule right now. It's what, the second weekend in December?
Yeah, it's like the ninth, I think, something like that. I want to
Yeah, you're
say
right. It's the shit of the shit games. It's the Panthers.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I knew it was a cat game. I was thinking it was either them or Jacksonville. I just couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah, I mean, if um the Red Rider BB gun is still a quarterback,
Oh,
what's his name? We just said it earlier in the show.
I don't know.
Oh my God, what's his name? Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton's still
Oh yeah,
quarterback, it might be a good game because the Eagles have not been playing very well this year.
yeah. We've had some injury issues already this year. Brown and Smith are out right now. It's just like that sucks. If it wasn't for
Yeah,
Barkley, we'd be doing really worse, a lot worse than we
that is
were.
true. That
But
is
I
true.
have high hopes. We're loaded when healthy this year, so and I saw some good stuff the first couple weeks before Brown went down. So
Hmm.
we'll see. It's a long
I mean,
season.
he's an animal.
I'm honestly more worried about Washington than anything because Dallas is just Dallas like they always are. But Washington's looking really
Washington
good
looks
this
like one of the
year.
best teams in the league right now.
Yeah, and that's scaring me because obviously the Giants are not a threat at all, and the Cowboys always find a way to get in the way of themselves every year. So I don't
Oh
ever
yeah,
really worry about them. But yeah,
because they're the
Washington
Cowboys.
is scary. So we'll see how that pans out.
Well, at the very least, you guys can come out of a bye week with a pretty easy game against
Yeah,
the
we got the
Browns.
Cleveland
Hopefully.
Browns. Such a perfect time to
Um,
have you on.
I Listeners, you'll know what happened in this game by the time by the time you listen to it. We are listening to it we're doing this on October
It's the
7th,
seventh,
and
yeah.
the
So
next
we have
game for
a
the Eagles is
Sunday.
October 13th against the
Yeah.
Browns. And I'll be honest, I rooting for the Browns has become bittersweet if I'm able to do it. I'm
That's
still in the
fair.
process of trying to discover my fandom for football again. It's definitely there
Yeah, I
again,
feel
which is
like there's a
really
weird thing
comforting.
to that when you actually play and then come out of
Yeah,
that because it's
especially
like,
when it ends in such a difficult fashion.
yeah, that's fair. Well, just cheer for Philly
You know,
this week. You don't need to cheer for Cleveland. It's fine.
that's fair.
It's in Philly,
Um,
so it should be a game we win, you would think, but we'll see. I'm not going to say anything. I said that about Tampa and we got destroyed, so
well, Paige, I could literally talk to you for hours, but
yes. No, this
I
has
think I
been
need to
great.
start up on dinner soon,
Yeah, this has
and
been
I know you
great.
need to eat too.
Yeah, I need to go to bed soon, honestly. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you? If you have anything you want to plug around now,
Awesome.
feel free.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for having me on. You can find me on any social media at Johnny Stanton IV, JohnnyStanton IV, like the fourth. And if you want to check out my website, it's stantoniv.com. But if you're more interested, and honestly, I haven't updated that thing in forever. If you're a TTRPG nerd like I am, and you probably are listening to this, go to SinkRPG.com to find out more about Sync Adventures on the Call to Reach Sea. We made hopefully we doubled our numbers in the last 9 days. That sounds
I
totally
mean,
doable.
it's been blowing up, so I wouldn't be
Oh well,
surprised,
thank you.
honestly.
I appreciate it. Um, yeah, so I think at this point when this is released, the late pledges won't be open anymore, but the backer kit still will be. So you should have the opportunity to reserve a copy on the back end through backer kit of Sync Adventures in the Call to Reach Sea. It is a pirates and tattoo supplement for D&D 5e. It's got player options like 4 subclasses, 3 races, at least 3 races. If we hit more
Mhm.
stretch goals, we might be able to make more. And a really cool mechanic that utilizes hit die as a resource to be drained that the DM can
I love that.
build up the
I
tension.
saw that feature. That was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
dope. Hit die are so
thank you.
useless.
Yes, they kind of are. So we wanted to make them useful. Yeah, that's about it. Go check out synkrpg.com and find out more.
Hell yeah.
But again, Paige, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I will have all Johnny's social links and a link to Sync in the description everywhere. As always, you can catch this on Spotify, Amazon, Podbean, and YouTube. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Later.